when it comes to like getting rid of affinities, man, like lots of subjects and they just drop down. But like when it comes to getting rid of affinities, tons of ways. One is like having a conversation with them. For example, first thing is first is to notice them. You're carrying on with your everyday life, but how do you know that you have affinities? A lot of times they will appear as simple thought forms. How do you notice it is normal people don't think. Well, I don't think, and there's like tons of people who have a quiet mind, not a single thought. This is the neutral state. When you're out of body, once your physical body drops dead and you're out there, you are free from your case, and the mind doesn't exist, which means there is no, oh, it's black everywhere and a white light there. Like, you don't have tons of thinking. It's super quiet within. No thoughts, no worries, no concerns, nothing. Quietness, awareness, understanding, knowledge. This is what your normal state should be like. So when we're focusing like, do I have an entity? Well, if you're thinking, you do. And a lot of people think. So you're just walking an entity cluster, really, to say sort of like, oops. But at the same time, people should not think negatively. It's not normal state. So a lot of that like sort of self-doubt, a lot of this like hating people or feeling certain ways that seem to be limiting you, that seem to be sort of trapping you, scaring you, putting you in this like sort of like a cell of self. It's later like tons of ways to sort of tell, but for example, you're carrying on with your daily life, and a certain person says a phrase and it pisses you off, it drives you crazy, and you just sort of like get all into the rageful mode, into the angry mode, you want to attack them, all this stuff. Or for example, they say certain things and you feel like I'm bad, I'm bad, wrong, and guilty, and sort of like start sort of like talking bad about yourself and like really feel bad about life. Or for example, being in fear. You want to do certain things in life, you want to get better, you want to talk to certain people, and all of a sudden tons of these fear thoughts like, oh, what if that person doesn't respond? What if they don't like me? What if I am not good enough? What if my confidence or something like that? And tons of what if, fear and other things will overcome, like all sort of like, just like you're sinking in tons of these thoughts and like all these emotions that seem to be limiting you in tons of ways. So when that happens, you're like, okay, so I have this feeling of not being good enough. I have this feeling of being afraid of blah blah blah. Or like I'm dissatisfied, I'm not good enough, or like whatever. So these limiting feeling states that seem to like put you in this cage and all, just put a label on them. Like, okay, so if I have entity cluster, there will be tons of them. Tons of different clusters. Tons. So when it comes into like feeling anger, what are you angry about? Where is the anger coming from? Where do you feel a certain emotion within your body? Is it in your head area, in your shoulders, in your chest, in your back? Where in your whole body do you feel it? Is it even maybe outside of you, just like whole like it feels like, you know, you're just sort of like sinking with this like massive cloud all over you. You just can't connect with people, you're sort of fully isolated, you feel bad, feel like completely down and overwhelmed and all this stuff. Like, so like sometimes there's just like so many things surrounding us all the time, and we're just looking for these things. But now that like we're like, okay, so entity clusters will usually have certain emotion. Entity cluster might have from like a few entities to millions to billions all in one little cluster, but don't be afraid, because simply it's just think of nano-sized little entities, kind of like you just can't even see them and all this stuff, but at the same time they are pure thought forms. They can't affect you, they can't mess with you too much, they're pure thought forms, and all they can do is they're in your space, and since they're hanging out with you, they assume that they're you, and you assume that you are them, and if they have a thought, life sucks, you pick up, life sucks, because you can't differentiate yourself between the entities, and whatever they say and whatever they feel, you think it's all on you. You think that you feel that way, you think that you think that, but simply you are freaking powerful, you are empathic, you are intuitive, and whatever happens with the entities, you are basically connected to these beings. So, with your intuition and everything else, you connect to these beings, and whatever they feel and think, you pick up. And simply, okay, here's the entity cluster of this experience, for example, like being angry, being anxious, being fearful about whatever, you put a label of like, okay, angry about life, angry about this, disappointed in this, feeling fear and stuff like that. So putting a label, and simply now you have a label of specific cluster, and you can use your thoughts on saying like, okay, thank you for serving me, because a lot of entities think that they're helping you, but literally you can have a conversation with them to the point where you acknowledge their existence, you acknowledge like they're here, but at the same time you ask for their leaders and like, okay, so this cluster of, for example, being, I don't know, like distracted. Cluster of being distracted, for example, like, okay, so like a lot of you might have procrastination, constantly doing something else, or being distracted and stuff like that. So like, identity cluster that is being distracted, what's your leader? Like call me your leader. So like, you put a label on this specific cluster, you ask for the boss, because it's like someone who rules them all. So when the leader comes over, you will feel like within your body, you might have a telepathic thought, like they're here, you might hear their voices, you might see them, each and every one of you might have, like, sort of experience it differently, but that being said, when the leader shows up, you're basically like, hey, I know that you're here, thank you for all your help if you think you're helping, but I'm done with you and I want you to leave. So you can thank them for whatever they're doing and let them go. You can simply sort of give them a warning and give them a threat and they will go away, or at the same time, visualize the cluster and sort of like think of it exploding, disappearing, or think of the galactic vacuum and use it to being sucked out and all the stuff. So that being said, yeah, for me, like, there's just tons of ways to connect to it, but like, again, like, Angie, if you want the whole like entity course and you want to learn how to do it, write me an email, because I'll give you a giveaway so that you could just check it out and see for yourself. But there's like lots of ways on dealing with them, so that's just one of the ways. But I want to answer more questions and get back to more people, so I'll go on.